Hey there, and I'm Sarah Hodges coming to you live. This is Executives Uncut, the podcast where we provide solutions for the corporate cycle of hell. Now, today we're talking about following your passion, and I'm here with Nonye Ujam, all the way from Nigeria. Welcome, Nonye.
Hi, Sarah. Thank you
So,
so much for having me.
oh my gosh, it's my pleasure. Should we talk a little bit about what you're experiencing right now, what you're going through to participate on this podcast?
Okay, so about 30 minutes ago, I'd set up and everything was fantastic. All of a sudden, 5 minutes to the time when we're supposed to go live, the power went out, and we just had to improvise. So I have my family, my children, and my husband holding their phones towards me with the torchlight so that I can attend this podcast. I'm very thankful for them for showing me this level of support and love. So yes, that's where we are.
That is so kind. I had asked Nonya, I said, do you want to just reschedule? It's no big deal. And she's like, no, I prepared for this.
Yeah.
I love that show must go on attitude. Can you have them wave the torchlights a little bit just so like we can
Okay, wave the torchlights a little bit so that they can sort of.
You can see the shadow behind you.
Yeah.
I love it. We should talk about improvising today instead of following your passion, or at least how they're coordinated with each other. But first, let's orient our audience a little bit with how we met, because we met in a really unusual way. I haven't really talked about it, but I've entered a Harvard degree program, and Nonye was one of my classmates. And in my pod, we met regularly throughout the semester, and it was so fun to watch each other grow and get to know each other. What was your experience like with that?
Okay, I'll just start off with the pod first. So we had these amazing human beings in our pod together, 5 of us, and for whatever reason, we all just connected really strongly. And Sarah was absolutely correct when she said that we were quite different. But, the truth is each of us brought our own strengths to the pod, and that I think was key to the level of connection that we made during this semester. So we were on the sustainability leadership class for during the semester. It was quite an intense class. Sarah, I'm sure you can agree with that. We had so many different deliverables, but I think just having that support structure within the course itself was very helpful. We met quite a few times. We had a couple of assignments to do together, and I think we worked perfectly well as a team. So yeah.
Yeah, and it was so great to learn more about you at that point and hear about the incredible career changes that you have made as a result of following your passion. Can you tell us more about those?
Okay, so originally an IT person. I studied computer science at university, and my master's was in computer science, IT law, and management. And I'd been working in the IT space for quite a few years. I used to be in the UK with my family and moved back to Nigeria a few years ago. Coincidentally, my husband was following his passion, and that's what brought us to Nigeria. So that's sort of
in good company.
That sort of started the journey. And so even when I moved back to Nigeria, I was still in the IT field, but I'd always had this passion for changing lives in Nigeria. As you can imagine, Nigeria is a developing country, so we do have a huge disparity in terms of social class. And I think one of the major things for me was or is children on the streets. We have quite a lot of that in Nigeria, unfortunately. I think we have the largest number of out of school children in the world in comparison to our population. Wow. So that was one of the key things for me. And of course, women as well. I have a passion for sort of helping women find their way and, sort of follow their passions as well, and, not not sitting back. I don't like the idea of sitting back as a woman. So anyway, of course, this what is in the humanitarian space. And the past few years, I sort of just started trying to help people. I started off with a couple of orphanages here in Nigeria. And then I thought, you know what, I'm really passionate about this. I'd really, really like to make this my career. And one of the first things I did was to go down the education route, because I felt that that would give my passion credibility, considering that I didn't want it to remain a passion only. I wanted it to be a career. So it was important for me to give that passion some credibility and also learn, because the formal education process would be what would help me learn in terms of the academic side, I guess. So that sort of started this journey.
Wow. So, but what do you think that you did differently that made you successfully follow through with it? Because I think a lot of people have a passion, but they don't act on it. So what did you do?
Now that you ask me, I honestly don't know how to answer that question. I can tell you what I did. But then I think for someone who's known me now for some time, you know that I'm a very process person. So I think it was more of the planning that helped me, sort of identifying what I wanted to do and planning towards that. I'm sure people do that, all the time, but maybe the passion itself was a key driving force. I'd say that, but I think the planning was critical.
Yeah, I imagine, I know that you are a planner and you kind of have to be. How many kids do you have?
4.
Right. So, 4 children,
Yeah.
several advanced degrees, trying to help a developing country, especially with issues with children on the street. You got to be planning that out, and I can see so it sounds like the passion itself and staying focused on the end result and what the change you're wanting to make is really the driver there, and then working backward and following through on those steps.
Absolutely.
Yeah. But you could, theoretically have worked on your passion within the tech organization, no? Or how did that, so why did you leave tech to help with children on the street?
So you're absolutely correct. I could have done that quite easily as well. But okay, maybe I can say something else. I really, really, really would love to work in the United Nations. And I didn't want to work in United Nations in a tech capacity. I think initially, one of the things I thought to do was to do that career change and abandon the tech. But that hasn't actually happened. As you can imagine, technology is at the center of everything that we do today in the world, globally. Absolutely. So it has actually been it's been very useful for me. The fact that I have this background in technology, I think, even in the way I think, analytical thinking, the way I process information, the way I plan, because my first job post graduation was as a technical analyst working with an excellent project manager. And he was actually the one who sort of helped steer my attention towards project management. And from then on, I went into project management. So you are absolutely correct. But I think because of what I wanted to do with myself, with my time, and with my career, I felt it necessary to go into that humanitarian space and leverage my existing skills. And tech has been at the center of that anyway.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. You wanted to have a voice that could express more humanitarian ideals as opposed to strictly tech ideals. At the same time, knowing that this podcast is for executives out there, and you are, a huge loss to any organization that would lose you, to your passion. Is there anything your last organization could have done differently to keep you fulfilled?
So I'll just go into talking about a bit of our course content, and I raise this because just thinking about those few weeks in class, one of the things that was a huge learning point for me was was marrying the adaptive structure with the hierarchical structure. I think my former organization was quite hierarchical. It is still quite hierarchical. And I think that's where we're unable to harness people's gifts and passions and, just to sort of create, to build innovation or to prepare people to accelerate. So if at all there was anything we could have done better, I'd say hierarchy for efficiency and adaptive for innovation. I think that's important.
Yeah. So it sounds like your last organization was so rooted in hierarchy that it didn't have any room for adaptability. They couldn't move with your passions. They couldn't adapt to what you were looking to do. And so the only way for you to follow it was to leave. And for any of our listeners who aren't oriented to these terms like hierarchical and adaptive, the idea is that, we do know hierarchy, right? Like you have a boss and you kind of a ladder that goes up and down and offshoots, but that there's also a room for that to move and to cross silos and to connect with each other and to coordinate different efforts. And if an organization doesn't allow for that, then amazing people like Nonye are gonna leave if they aren't feeling fulfilled with their passion. So that makes perfect sense to me.
Yeah, I'll just like to add something though. So at the moment, thankfully, this works within the organization, but I haven't actually left completely. I've sort of taken a break, and I'm working in this new place now. So you never know what's going to happen in the next couple of years. So,
Yeah, we are seeing many very hierarchical, traditional organizations take on a more adaptive approach, especially as the pandemic has changed everything, and how people work and communicate with each other. So that's great. Never know. Maybe they will evolve enough where you can go back and do what you want to do.
Absolutely.
There. So thinking to the conversations and the way that you're leading other young women, what advice, based on your experience, do you give to them when you're mentoring about following their passions?
Sorry, could you just repeat that, Sarah? I lost you for
sure.
a minute.
I heard we had a little delay. Basically, I'm wondering, what advice do you give women you mentor about following their passions?
I think it's a lady that I respect very highly said something. Her name is Aisha Ahmad. She's the deputy governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria. And there's something that she said, which has never left me. I happened to be at a meeting and she said, you have to be courageous. And that's the truth. I think you need to have courage. It's not an easy thing, to leave your comfort zone and to perhaps I think it's not an easy thing to leave your comfort zone and kind of start from the beginning. It can be very daunting. It can be very disheartening, particularly if you've climbed certain ladders or you've attained certain levels. But I think one of the things that keeps me going is my passion for what I do at the moment. It's not always easy. It's not always simple. But like you said, keeping the issue at the center of everything that you do is critical to helping you continue on the journey. And that's what hopefully I'm trying to do.
These young women are so lucky to have you as a mentor, to teach them to stay courageous. So we're at
Thank you.
Absolutely. We're at the portion of our podcast where we like to ask our guests for 3 quick tips in
Okay.
today on following your passion. Can you share some with us?
Okay, so being an IT person, the first thing that comes to mind is the agile software development approach. And so the 3 things I would say: plan, develop, and revise. So the beauty about the agile software development methodology is that you just keep developing, and you keep revising and changing and testing. It's sort of like a rapid method of developing software, as opposed to the waterfall model where you need to go through each stage before you have to complete each stage before going on to the next one. So, and the reason I say that is because it's important to recognize that the environment is changing. Things are changing. I mean, 2020 into 2021 brought us a whole new world that we didn't know existed prior to now. So I think without staying hard and fast, Sarah, I know you're going to love me saying this. So without staying hard and fast on anything specifically, it's important for someone to be adaptable, to change. You need to be ready to recognize that there are instances where things need to be a bit fluid, and be ready and willing to accept and execute, as it were.
Yeah, that's awesome. It reminds me so much. Should I share the story of how we turned an individual project into a group project? Because
yes, please.
This comes in. When we very first started our classwork together, I remember distinctly, I actually wrote about it, that Nonye really liked processes to be followed exactly. And I suggested, in my traditional way, to change things up. Let's do it the way we want to do it when we got into our pod instead of following the directions. And Nonye was like, no, we must follow the directions. Well, fast forward to the end of the semester, I may or may not have suggested to our pod that we should turn an individual project into a group project. And they were going to reach out for permission to the teacher. And I said, why don't we just do it and say that we did it? And Nonye was the first person to write to the teacher and say, like, this is what we're planning on doing. We didn't ask for permission. we just went totally rogue. But it was really fun to watch you, Nonye, become more adaptive and more open to ideas. And I love that that's one of your quick tips for the day, because you totally, that was like a total, 180 change.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that project was fantastic. I love the fact that the teachers immediately agreed to what we wanted to do. They were so excited about it. And I think that also helped to bring us much closer together. We worked so well as a team. It was unbelievable. And even when we were giving, so at the end of the semester, we each had to do sort of like key takeaways from the course. And honestly, I kid you not, we didn't
collaborate.
We didn't collaborate. We didn't confer with each other. We didn't reach out to it. None of us reached out to any of the other one, but we all gave the pod, our connection in the pod as our key takeaway for working well together. So that was really fantastic. I think it just goes to show, what we can all achieve if we work well in teams.
Yeah. And, it's funny, I didn't even plan on talking about that experience today, but I think it's a great example for any executive or leader who's listening to this, is that we have, academia is extraordinarily hierarchical. And this particular class was teaching us about adaptive networks and how to, in a sense, break that hierarchy. Well, not break it, but bend it a little bit or operate differently within it. And we did that. And our key takeaway from the class was that experience. And they allowed allowed for us to follow our passion, and we actually got more out of the class because of it. And I think improved the class as a whole. I would not be surprised if they suggested that or allowed for it in future classes. So any leader out there who's listening, if somebody does go rogue, right, or if you give them license to follow their passion or to bend hierarchy, it could actually improve your organization, which is pretty powerful.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree.
So actually, as our coaching challenge for this podcast, we ask all of you listening to consider this week whether or not your organization provides the space and flexibility for your employees to follow their passion. And, if not, consider maybe where you could change a little bit. Oop, I think I froze. That was funny. I froze on a really funny face too. Is that way for you? Can you hear me still?
I can hear you perfectly well.
Did I freeze though? That was funny.
A little bit, yes.
It was like this too.
No, it wasn't.
Anyway, just this is the last thing in case someone didn't hear me. Just really evaluate your organization and see how much space and flexibility your employees have to follow their passion. But I think that's it, and just in time, because now I'm having tech issues on my end. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for these amazing tips, Nonye. If somebody listening wants to get in touch with you, where can they find you?
You can find me on LinkedIn. I'm same name, Nonye Ujam. Try my best to be active there, but reach out to me, messages, whatever it is, and hopefully I can provide some kind of help or support.
Excellent. Thank you again. And thanks everyone else for tuning in to this episode of Executives Uncut. If you enjoyed the content, make sure to share, subscribe with someone who could benefit from this talk, and visit hodgescoaching.com for new episodes. You can also follow us at Hodges Coaching on social media. Obviously, we record all of these live. So if you follow us, they will pop up in your notifications so you can catch us when we are live, which is pretty exciting, I think. And feel free, if anybody's listening in future episodes, if you have questions, shout them out to us in the comments. All right. Thanks so much. I'm Sarah Hodges. Thanks, Nonye. I'll see you next week.
Thank you.
Bye.